Yes, I've got stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Life is terminal. None of us getting out of here alive.
I want to deep dive a bit more into why you're here today, because something big is happening.
I have agreed to go into the celebrity Big Brother house.
It's a huge decision to do something like that. You're not doing it for the fame. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for a very different reason. Can you just tell me a bit about that? I would really like to talk to your daughter with you, if that's all right. If you can, please, could you just click the like button and then subscribe to this podcast? It obviously doesn't cost any money to do that, but it does mean that we can deliver great guests to you and you get the episodes first. Ooh. I'm so happy to be sat in front of you. I can't tell you, because as a TV presenter, you know, you were there shining a light way before me. A woman in television being a boss, journalistic, intelligent, forceful, strong woman. And it's an honor to interview you.
Wow.
Also a little bit scary, but it's okay.
Really?
Well, I don't know.
Am I scary?
No, not scary, but because I admire you and I think I want to do right by you. Like, I feel you deserve the best interview ever.
Wow.
And I want to do you proud.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you.
I think you're amazing.
Oh, God. Listen. After all the therapy I've had, the one place that therapists have never been successful is getting me to accept praise. Oh, my God. I can't. I really feel uncomfortable with praise.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I know why it is. Because I was brought up with the opposite. If I did anything good, I was proud of it. I was either punished for being, yay, I did this. I was told not to be boastful. And if somebody praised me in front of my parents, Mum would be like, oh my God. You know, my mum was always like, oh, Tootsie, you know, and I got all my O levels and things. You go, Tootsie, run up the garden, Tootsie. And I'd be really happy for a moment. And then Dad would be, don't boast, you know, what have you. And so if somebody praised me, like on teachers' night, if a teacher said, oh, she's doing right, Mrs. Millard, my English teachers.
Praise Mrs. Millard.
Praise Mrs. Millard. Yeah. Would say, she's done really well and da-da-da-da-da. And Mum would go, like this. And then Dad would just sort of stand there and say, well, you've got a good brain, you know.
I want to deep dive a bit more into your mum and dad. But first of all, I really wanted to start by asking you about why you're here today, because something big is happening.
I finally, after years of being asked, have agreed to go into the celebrity Big Brother house. And you, of course,
somewhere I know
you are. You are a celeb Big Brother. And of course,
well, we were, like you were.
Yeah, I was with Ryland,
yeah,
behind the scenes, and I'd see you do these live shows. And as my Australian side would say, not to piss in your pocket, but you with live TV and a live audience remain unsurpassed.
Oh, that.
No, really, your energy, and how you read the audience, because it's live, it's not easy.
So exciting.
Yes, and when people came out of the house, or even going in the house, your sort of awareness of how they felt, and taking that. And not losing the audience, but still giving that person a sort of jolly up. I think you're brilliant at that.
Oh, thanks. But we're not here to talk about me. I love you, Trisha. You're like interviewing me
I
already.
hate being
Stop it.
Being interviewed so weird. So freaking weird. Oops,
But so you're allowed to swear as much as you like. We'll just beep it. Don't worry. I was fascinated by that because obviously it's a huge decision to do something like that. It's not like you're not doing it for the fame and you're not doing it for the money, but you're doing it for a very different and valid reason. Can you just tell me a bit about that?
Well, like you say, like every year you get asked to do Big Brother, and I'll be like, nah, you've got to be kidding. And let me be honest, money-wise, I've been asked a couple of times before when sort of public didn't know, but I was really brassic, divorce and having to pay people out and all that stuff. Really, I mean, seriously, like borrowing money off my kids for a while. And I still said, no, there's no way I'm going to do it. So this time,
why had you said no before in the past?
Why? I had no reason. To me, I had no reason to do it. The money sounded good, but I either wasn't in a place where I wanted to do it. I prefer
hard.
to be.
It's quite hard, I think. Emotionally being cut off from the outside world. It's a very intense ride.
Well, that wasn't in those days. When I was going through hard times, that wasn't even my consideration. My consideration was mentally going through a divorce or a separation or your relationship breaking down was not the time to expose yourself for all the money in the world. And it just wasn't my thing. I mean, I trained producers in reality television, so I knew, I knew the game. So I didn't want to do it. So this time I was asked. And I said to my daughter, my older daughter, I said, oh, God, as usual, they've asked me to go and do Big Brother. And she said, Mum, while you're going through this whole cancer shenanigans, you have become passionate about the language around it, the lack of joined up services, the way the press reports it, the misinformation. You're doing it on Instagram. You're supporting people, and they support me, on social media. You're shouting into this void, even on, like, when I do CNN, and I had to cover Catherine coming out about it, which is when I decided to come out about it. My daughter said, you've got all of these stuff you're passionate about. I've done local press in America about it. And, Billie said, Mum, this is your opportunity for people to see what you're talking about, not just the words, to actually see what 3.4 million people, according to the Macmillans, by December, 3.4 million people in the UK alone are living with cancer. 6 million people are living with a chronic illness. Now, they're not all on benefits. Most of them are working. A lot of them keep it secret because they think they won't get further work or they'll be fired. And with that's a very real fear. Yeah. But all those millions of people who could benefit from better joined up services, people using better language around them, all of those things, Billie said, hello. So I said yes.
And I'm flicking around a bit because I want to talk to you a bit more about your cancer later. I'd quite like to go back to, you were talking about your mum.
Yeah.
At the beginning, and Agnes came to the UK in Windrush, is that correct?
The Windrush generation, as a nurse, yeah.
And you were born in 57?
Yeah.
And you grew up thinking that somebody was your father. How did that evolve?
Well, Mum came over, yes, you say, did nursing training, and Dad, as I call him, was another student. I later discovered they split up for a while, and then Mum came back to him and said, I'm pregnant, what are you going to do about it? So they got married. I'm just laughing about how I found out when they got married. I needed a passport to go on a school cruise that I worked for, saved up for. And I was about, 14, 15, and they had all the papers on the bed. And I said, oh, what's this? And it was their wedding certificate. And it said they were married in August 1957. And I sat there and I said, hang on, 1957, August. I was born in December 1957. Hello. And my mum did a rugby tackle that would have saved the sevens. She flew in a way that Harry Potter could only dream of across the room. And in one, she could be in American football, grabbed the certificate from my hand like this, which is how I knew it was an issue. But yeah, that she had the baby apparently, and I found out later from a friend who came, because it was the old days, the man wasn't there. Mum's friend came, looked at me and said, well, it's not Peter's, my dad, but it's not Peter's. Are you going to tell him? And Mum said, well, I suppose not. And apparently Dad said that he kept asking her, and he said, don't make me ashamed if I have to have a blood test. So like 3 months later, she said, what, I suppose it's not yours. And according to Dad, she would never tell him who my father was. I was born in December 1957, and I say Mum went on to nail Dad's foot to the floor, had 3 kids. I mean, my sisters are barely a year apart. In fact, one between 2 sisters, there's a year and a day. And I said to Dad, he said, what was I going to do? We were already married, and in those days, you couldn't just get divorced. And a black man and a white woman, meanwhile in the States, would have been illegal. They got married. Look, people, there were signs indoors saying no Irish, no dogs, no blacks. They had to move from where they lived in Hackney. They moved to a caravan site. And yeah, my mum had the sisters one after the other, but he was always Dad. But Davina, I knew I looked so different. My sisters are lighter than my kids. They had different hair. They were always the pretty one. People always thought I was the boy. Always thought I was the boy. And I was really comfortable with that,
It's interesting that, because I think I feel a lot of similarities to you in my ambition. I know you're ambitious, and I love your drive, and I love your hustle. You hustle. I love that about you. And I feel like we both have, because I was a real tomboy when I was younger, a masculine energy to us.
A lot. One of my kids said I'd make a good lesbian. I could have been. I could have been completely. I've never been ashamed of that. I still to this day, in fact, even yesterday, when I'm all done up, I say, "Oh, I look like a girl," and
that's quite funny, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look at me! I look like a girl.
Yeah, I look like a girl. He gets it. The man I'm with gets it. And I'm
Alan.
sure we'll get to that, Alan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always and not been ashamed of that. I never felt overtly feminine. I've never felt overtly masculine. I guess if I was a young person, the in this day and age, with what's floating around, I probably would be called non-binary. I don't label myself other than my name. You know, younger generation want to label themselves, but I get it. I absolutely get it, not on an intellectual level. And I know there's loads of people like us, Davina. There's loads of people like us who just fall this side of heterosexual, if you can put it that way. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm probably labeling you.
No, but I agree. And it's interesting you talked about your husband, because my partner would probably say he's got lots of feminine energy.
Yes, my husband's got lots of feminine energy.
And that's what we find attractive in each other.
Yes.
I think that's what makes the world go round. You know, you like, we have a little quirk that somebody else finds attractive because they also have that's what's brilliant. I'm fascinated about your relationship with your stepdad, because you did adore him.
When I was growing up, yeah, when I was growing up.
But it sounds like he was quite tough on you.
I used to, when we sailed on the ship out to East Africa, because my parents relocated to East Africa, and I love my memories of growing up in East Africa, tomboy land, we sailed out to the ship. I used to walk around holding his hand singing, I want to be daddy's girl, because that was the hit Bobby's Girl. And he was my hero in East Africa. He was my hero. I remember my parents went out there because Tanganyika had become Tanzania, and they needed medics and people to train, and both my parents were nurses. And so he worked at the hospital for the criminally insane. He was all for giving the people we write off another chance.
There's a lot of that in you, right? Like, I mean, when you think about your TV show, about your moral framework, about helping people, or
came
helping
from Dad.
Sort out,
came from Dad. Mum taught me, no. She taught me I had to be twice as good to be half as good. She taught me that I was an ambassador. I might be the first, as we called it then, coloured person somebody had ever met, not to forget it. That's good and bad.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I won a place. We were in Virginia Water when we came back from Africa. Short time in Africa, in Norfolk, which I've had a lot of therapy to get over. That was horrific.
Just quickly, why was that horrific? Or do you mind me asking?
We went to a little local school in Norfolk. Remember, this is 1968. I'm going to say the 60s. Never seen a black child before. And my little sisters went to, my auntie was teaching at another school, kindergarten, and we went to the school. And came with my cousin. And as we walk up to school every day, one kid would go, they're coming. And they go, Blackie, 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 Blackie. All the kids, like maybe 20 kids, Blackie, Blackie. The school gate, they'd smack us, Blackie, Blackie, like this. And there was one blonde girl. If my life's ambition is to find her, I think her name was Julie. She'd go, I'll fight with you.
Protecting you.
She'd come and she'd be, get off. I'll fight with. And I thought, for a white kid to come and fight with us every day, it's like, why would you do that?
What did that mean to you, though? I mean, that...
Look for the allies.
Yeah.
Don't tar everyone with the same brush. It's very easy when you get a barrage of racism to think all of them are racist, and to think only the ones throwing the punches are racist. They're not, because the people standing at the back doing nothing. The quiet racists are always the most difficult. I've got a black friend, or I sat next to a gay person on a bus, they're always the most difficult. But when you meet those allies, they are bloody heroes, Davina. They're the ones crossing the lines that they don't have to cross to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. They are the saints of this world.
Be amazing to find Julie.
I would, if Julie's...
We should start a campaign.
Julie's around my age.
We're going to talk about this after.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you do that.
But, Davina, that time at school, Dad, who I thought was my dad, taught me you must never let them see you cry. I used to get hit if I cried when I got hit. I got hit a lot. So I didn't cry. And I will go and
Can I just quickly ask you something? You just said I used to get cried when I got hit. Do you mean by your dad?
Yeah.
So you, okay. So you used to get hit by
really
your dad?
Really badly, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you really loved him?
Up to a point.
Yeah.
And then when I stopped, Davina, I stopped completely.
Really?
And I never stopped caring about him.
No.
Because it was physical manipulation and then it was mental manipulation. But he's complicated. He's not bad. He wasn't a bad person. He put a roof over my head. When he later out, I found out it wasn't his kid, and he didn't think I looked anything like my mother. I looked like him. But you know, this school, anyway, we used to call it school dinners, you know, school lunches, and you had to sit down at a table, and a blackie, you know, guys. Anyway, I went towards this table, and a boy came and hit my tray, and the food went everywhere, and they were laughing, blackie, like this. I wasn't going to cry. I went back, and I said, big lump in my throat. They knocked my tray down. I think it was 8. They knocked my tray down. Can I have some more food? And this dinner lady looked at me and she said, "You've had." Sight. Oliver Twist. She said, "You've had." And everyone laughed. So I ran outside, burst into tears. I'm sitting on the step. I remember it like it was yesterday. Crying and crying and crying. And a teacher came and sat down next to me. And I remember when he looked at blonde hair and he had goofy teeth. And he sat down next to me and he said, "You've got to toughen up, you know. You see, people in this country don't want you here. And you're going to get this all your life. Because they don't want coloured people. So you've got to, you know, this is how it's going to be. So you can't cry every time it happens because, you know, basically telling me that that's okay, that's my life.
You've got to suck it up.
You've got to suck it up and grow a pair because of that.
And I mean, you were in Norfolk for a number of months.
Ugh.
Where did you move to after that? London?
Virginia Water.
Oh, Virginia Water, that was it.
Heaven.
And so when you moved to Virginia Water, was it any better than Norfolk?
Yes.
Was it? Why?
I guess because the common denominator was money. People suppose that if you were there, and also a lot of airline crews there, very wealthy area. We were in hospital housing that came with my dad's job. Our primary school was fantastic, St Anne's Heath. I believe Chesney Hawkes, I know Chesney Hawkes, went to St Anne's Heath.
That's quite funny.
Just saying.
Yeah.
No longer exists. And then I won a place to the posh school, which was my saviour. So William Perkins, I'm so proud of that school. I follow them on Instagram, and I'm so proud of what they do. They were ahead of their game back then.
In what way?
All girls school, and our then headmistress, Miss Sames, used to say, "Girls, you're top of the 5% of this country. you're women and that doesn't diminish you. It was a real feminist school before I started school in 1969 and it was a feminist school overtly, covertly, in every way. My English teacher, that Mrs. Millard, she nurtured me. She nurtured me. My God, she nurtured me. There was never any snobbery about the size of your house or anything. Looking back, we didn't have, but I never considered us poor. But I took my elder daughter back for a BBC segment, and it was so tiny. And when we passed the spot where Dad used to hit me, I still couldn't go there. It was like...
So there was a specific place that he would take you?
No, that I'd get trapped into.
Right. So there's a corner you can get out of? Literally.
Yeah. And when he used to just lose his temper and just he'd always call me bloody bastard child.
Do you think he carried a fury about that?
Yeah.
You weren't his
I know.
biological
No,
child?
I know he did. I know he did. He pretty much admitted it. He didn't. He admitted. He admitted, and another reason I'm very uncomfortable with praise is I knew it. That Dad wasn't my dad, but I was always mad, bad, sad, got an active imagination, blah, blah, blah. When I started doing DNA tests on my show, Mum said they don't know anything. But, it was always fobbed off. When Mum died, Dad told my then husband, who had great joy in telling me, that he'd always know and the whole story. And I asked him, and I rang him up and I said, Dad, how do you feel? Because he'd had to keep that secret, and he tried to get Mum to tell me all those years. And Mum was best friend.
So you didn't know for sure that he wasn't your father?
No,
I was only
always...
when your mum died that you... Wow.
And when I phoned Mum's best friend, she said, she didn't tell you. She told me she told you, She clearly had great shame around it, whether it was because of her Catholic past or maybe I was the result of rape or sexual assault, but there was a lot of shame around it. But she had a lot of pride in what I did.
Yes.
What I did when I was successful. I was Mum's child, and Mum reinforced that literally to her dying breath. She said, thank you for my, she died in my arms. She said, thank you, Toots, for my grandchildren. Thank you for my grandchildren. I said, well, you've got other grandchildren. No, but these are just my grandchildren.
It feels like you are who you are because of it.
Oh, God, yes. Good and bad. I will never trash Dad. And I wrote something that my kids read at his funeral because I couldn't be there. Because unbeknownst to everyone, I was having chemo every single... I didn't tell Dad about the cancer. I didn't even tell him about it.
And was that the first time you had cancer?
No, the second time. I didn't tell him the second time.
You didn't tell anybody, really, did you?
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell him because it would have been used against me. But at his funeral, I was really real. In a world where everything has to be good, bad, black, white, yes, no, you're this side, that side. And all of our truths are correct, but none of us have the whole picture. And that is at the core of who I am. I don't need, coming back to why I'm in the Big Brother house, I don't need people to like me. I'm astounded and I'm suspicious if people like me. I don't need to have loads and loads of friends. I'm very much like my older daughter like this. I instinctively don't trust. If I feel I don't trust people, or I just get a feeling about them, at this late age in my life, I've learned to go with that.
Starting something new can be a bit terrifying, can't it? Whether it's a business, a side hustle, or just finding the courage to share ideas online. The actual hardest part is often taking that first step. Our sponsor, Adobe Express, the quick and easy Create Anything app, turns "Where do I begin?" into "Look what I just did." With customizable templates and powerful features like generative AI, it makes creating everything from social posts to presentations feel so simple. If 2025 is the year you're finally saying yes to your big ideas, in fact, let's say 2025 is the year you're saying yes to your big ideas, Adobe Express makes it so easy to just jump right in. And it's free, so no excuses. Head to adobe.com/UK/express or search in your phone's app store to give it a go. It's that easy. I'm excited because I'm going to introduce you to my new show sponsor, Ancient and Brave. I love a secret weapon. Well, this isn't really a secret because I've been banging on about it for years. It's collagen, and more specifically, Ancient and Brave True Collagen. It's been part of my routine for years, and it's completely tasteless, odorless, and dissolves in anything. Coffee, tea, smoothies, even just water. But this is why I swear by it. Collagen levels naturally decline as we get older. I know, it's so unfair. And that basically affects everything: skin, hair, joints, muscles, you name it. But True Collagen helps keep everything strong, supported, and glowing. But what really sets them apart is that they're a B Corp and members of the 1% for the planet, which means that 1%, actually now 2%, of all their sales goes directly to environmental causes that protect our planet. So if you fancy giving it a go, here's a little secret for you. Get 20% off your first order at ancientandbrave.earth/planet using my code BEGINAGAIN, all in one word. I think obviously the older I get, the more I don't want to waste time doing anything I don't want with anybody I don't like. I'm not going to fake anything anymore. It's like life's too short.
Yeah.
You totally get that.
Yeah.
It's like time's running out.
Yeah.
Time has turned over.
And can I just say that you, with your brain, I don't know the correct word. I'm sure
it was a tumor removal.
All right. You with that, in those moments that you don't know what it is, you don't know how bad it is, in those moments when you're being wheeled into the operating theatre and you don't know who you will be on the other side, something in you goes, if I get out of this, there's no more bullshit ever.
Yeah. Well, you know what was interesting was I let go of the outcome.
Yeah.
I really did.
You have to.
And I was at peace with not coming out of it.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't, because it was a different scenario though. I thought I'd just smashed my hip. I'd broken my hip in that fall. And I'd been hanging on upside down on the banisters for 3 hours.
So you'd fallen down the stairs?
I ran up the stairs.
Oh, you ran up and then tripped?
I don't know how I got there. And I went through this thing in my head with my psychotherapist, and it still crops up. I don't know how. I've been cleaning the stairs and spraying them. And I used to always run up the stairs. I know. I think
it's like a sign. I've still got it.
Yeah. Sprint up the stairs. I did it. So I sprinted up the stairs. So it wasn't just a slip. So I don't know how I was barefoot. I must have gone on one of the patches.
Slip.
I don't know. I flipped upside down and I ended face down, boom, 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 down the stairs. I grabbed the banister. I'm like, my legs at a weird angle. And I was playing like I've never felt before. And it was all funny at funny angle. And I thought, can I let go and go to the bottom? Because I couldn't move my leg.
Mm.
And it's marble at the bottom and there's a door. And I thought, I was up near the top. I thought, if I let go, I'm dead. I tried and I went so fast and I put my arm down again. I knew if I let go,
that was it.
I was dead.
Mm.
I had no phone and I kept moving and honestly, Davina, apparently my hip had not just broken, it had shattered. So I had shards of bone
Floating about.
and no connection.
Oh, God.
No connection internally apart from muscle and veins. Anyway, I thought, I'll shout for Alexa. So I said, Alexa.
Oh, can I just say, what a great idea.
No,
So that is so clever.
Alexa saved my life. Seriously.
Oh, my God.
Seriously.
So Alexa heard you in the kitchen or wherever.
Screamed. Alexa. So she, would that be Alan office? Alan business?
Wow.
I said, so she called Alan. And he's
just
like,
to clarify, Alan's
Alan's
your
my husband, yeah. He was working in the city. He was taking clients out to dinner, right? So he's at a business meeting dinner. And he said, hi, darling, can't talk. It's so busy in here. All right, I'll call you later. I'm like, and he hung up. No. Alexa, call Alan again. So calls Alan again. Davina, I just went, I just screamed like this. Just screamed and screamed and screamed. He said, Christ. He said, don't worry. So he called our neighbours. They got our spare key out of the garage.
Right.
They came in, and one of my their husband and wife, and Sharon is a physiotherapist. So I told her, and she was so good. She cried with me. And finally, when the medics came, she could tell them, don't put anything into my mouth. They kept putting morphine into me and everything. And I heard them say they had to keep pumping up the drugs. And I heard them say, we're scared she's going into shock and that she's on the verge of cardiac arrest. And they finally managed, I'm screaming and screaming. My leg is just a pukey angle. And finally, they get me onto a trolley and into the ambulance. So we get into hospital. Alan is on a train because the car would have taken too long.
Are you on your own at this point? Or you with
Still my
neighbour?
No, they weren't allowed in the ambulance. They followed me. And then Alan got the train because it was the fastest way. It's 45 minutes from New York to where we are. A car would have been forever. He didn't know what he was going to find. He met me at the hospital in emergency. And we're there, and I'm so drugged off my ketamine, every drug known to man. And this intern walks in, and he said, I heard, by the way, I heard them talking about you. It's your leg shattered because of the cancerous tumour. That's the first time since 2000. I was given the all clear in 2008. Anybody mentioned cancer. And that's how I found out.
Oh my God.
And I said, am I going to die? And he said, oh, I don't know. They'll come and see you.
Wow. And you were on your own at that point?
With Alan. Alan was there.
Oh, he was
both of us.
So what went through your mind then?
Well, so I was dead. Because I didn't even think of... I'd had what I called people say what your normal is. I was a cross-country runner, weight trainer, ice skating, I had what I thought was a pulled groin muscle. And I was having physio for it. I didn't know that it was a sign that my cancer had come back in my hip. Because didn't feel it in my hip. I felt.
And originally it was breast cancer.
Yeah, originally it was breast cancer.
So it had metastasized.
Yeah. So they gave me an oncologist that specialised in bone, and then he handed me over to the best oncologist in the world. But yeah, so I had to heal from that and do physio. I had my operation at 10 o'clock at night. 7 o'clock in the morning, I was in physio. Right, let's go. I'm going to walk. They said, we can't discharge you until you've gone up these steps and down. Got up them bloody steps and down.
I mean, this is where your stamina and your drive from your childhood helps, right? That
and working out. Davina, whatever you go through, the more physically fit you are, however you achieve that, the better the outcome. That's not just me saying it, and if you can maintain that through your treatment, the better your results. And that's not just, that's in your blood. You see it. I see it I have full blood tests every 3 weeks when I have my lovely little chemo and special, hormone therapy thing, infusion. So yeah, that started it. We didn't tell anybody.
So what were you told your prognosis was at that point? Did you want to know? How much did you want to know?
Yeah. No, I do. I'm one of those people. I have to have all the facts. That it was, metastatic. That meant it was stage 4. I had all my scans. I had to kind of freeze my brain. We had our wedding coming up. So I had a physio coming to the house, and I was kind of more concentrated on getting mobile and my hip.
So you had a hip replacement? Did they have to replace the whole thing?
No, it was partial. They got a lot of the where the cancer was just basically, it had exploded on that hip. I remember when I flipped over, that thud, it was like, makes me puke to think of it. But I was concentrating on walking again. The lady who came to my house twice a week said, what, have you got? It's always good to have a goal. I said, I've got a goal. I ain't walking up the aisle when I get married with a walking frame. And I will be wearing my rock studs. And I did. I walked up the aisle. My youngest, who came out and sang beautifully at the wedding, put flowers around it, and I had a cane, and all 99% of the guests knew was that I'd had a fall. All my team, my production team, because I was doing a week 6 out, Friday, Saturday live show. All my team knew it was that I'd broken my leg, and where I said this show comes to you courtesy of OxyContin. They got it, But
why didn't you want to tell anyone?
Well, my kids knew, and my husband's kids knew. I didn't want them looking at me at my wedding going, oh, doesn't she look nice considering, I didn't want it to be that. And also, the first time I'd gone through breast cancer, I had no control about the news. I mean, I went for my first test before my operation, literally. I don't think I'd had my operation, or maybe I had. And I got a phone call saying, we heard you're you're dying of cancer, and if you don't tell us the story, we're going to print it anyway. It must have been earlier than that, because I hadn't told Daddy. I hadn't told my sisters. I told my kids. I hadn't told anybody. And here was a newspaper going to out me. And from then on, it was a bloody nightmare, which traumatized my kids to this day and traumatized me, and a large part of why I live in America. My kids had to go through to security to come and see me. Wow. The first time round, I thought, when you feel somebody's looking at you, and they were paying people within the hospital. One person, the hospital was fantastic, by the way, but they were paying people to get pictures of me. When I went to the supermarket, people go, there's two boys, right? There's the one with cancer. We can get 50 quid if we get a picture of her. I had paparazzi hassling my housekeepers, my darling housekeepers, Bev and Di, going to their house. And I had, everywhere. I had to be moved. My hospital room had to be moved. So there wasn't a window that they could use long lenses with. Interflora wasn't Interflora. It was some freelancer trying to get into my room. Wow. And my kids suddenly developed lots and lots of friends at school and teachers who'd never spoken to them. It was bleak nightmare. So the second time around, I had control over it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to tell anybody until I was ready. And that meant those people at the wedding only knew after the wedding, and nobody knew until, Princess Catherine came out about hers. I had a wig made exactly like my hair. My colleagues at CNN, they didn't know I was having chemo every bloody week.
Wow.
And literally one time I got off the table from radiation treatment.
Went straight to work.
Yeah, oh my God.
Wow.
They thought I was mad. I had a limo outside the radiation thing with all my stuff. I'm going to CNN. But I was really, really ill through the 4.5 months of chemo. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't have a day off work, not a single day. And nobody knew. For 19 months, nobody knew. And you know why that was important to me?
Why?
When I first came out on CNN, I knew it would get to the English press. So I rang up a friend at, who does things at Hello Magazine. I said, I've got an exclusive, and this is why I'm doing it. I have to control
You got to control
the narrative.
it, yeah.
So I did a photo shoot in a colleague of Alan's house, and hair and makeup came and everything. I was very nervous doing it. Alan came along with me. And when it came out, people were shocked. And it was like, my producers were saying, oh my God, I'm just thinking 6 months ago, I took a day off because I had a headache, or I had a hangover. Oh my God, and all that time. And I said, I'm the same person I was for those 19 months. And for 4.5 of those months, I was going through hell. I am the same person. You now know I have cancer. There is no reason why you wouldn't treat me in exactly the same way that you treated me for that 19 months and the 30-something years before I've been in the media. Why? People go, oh,
the limp neck. I hate the limp
neck.
neck.
Oh, yeah. And I'd be like, I'm the same. You didn't know.
Yeah.
Why now you know?
Yeah. We had a little chat before, and I told you about my sister, Caroline, who died of cancer, and it's really helpful you talking about the language.
Whoa.
Because everyone's different, aren't they? And everybody wants a different approach. It depends on your personality.
Yeah.
My sister didn't want to talk about it at all. It was like, ignore.
I know.
But then
like
that was very difficult. I totally wanted to respect her wishes. But I didn't know what kind of funeral she wanted, and she'd never done a will, but she had nothing really to give away. She wasn't great with money. But then her office had given her back. She'd been put back on full salary. She'd been fired because she'd made mistakes. But she had brain tumours. She had lung cancer and secondary brain mets.
Mum was
Oh, really?
Mum never smoked a cigarette in her life, but I suspect working on wards as a nurse back in the day. Mum had lung cancer that went to her brain. Same
Exactly
thing. Same thing.
And so she was then put back. I called her job and I said, look, she wasn't getting bad at her job. She had brain tumours, and she's life limited. And they said, we'll reinstate her in her job until she goes, and then she'll get her life insurance, which for her gave her dignity because she got 4 times her salary. She had 4 godchildren, and they were all very good friends of hers' kids. None of them were particularly well off, and it would have made, well, I know it made a big difference to all of those kids' lives.
Wow, what a job.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Right? I went back to her job and had a very emotional cuddle with her CEO.
Wow.
It was AMV. They were amazing. Wow. And that gave her dignity in death. But it also meant for me, I'm sorry I'm talking to you now, but it also meant for me that she needed a will to make those wishes clear.
Yeah.
So I could get a lawyer.
Yeah.
I spoke to the lawyer before, and I said, please, can you ask her what kind of will she wants? So as it's always important, I think, as a layperson, well, for me, I learned from my sister to ask, how do you want me to handle this with you? Is that what you'd like, or what?
Well, let me go back to you using the words life-limiting. It was all I could do not to jump out of my seat and throw my arms around you when you used that word. We all have different experiences of, let's talk just singularly about cancer now, although I tend to talk about chronic illness as a thing, because if you've got motor neuron disease or Parkinson's, they're all life-limiting. We all have a different approach. In this day and age, every one of us knows somebody who has had cancer. So if you haven't had cancer, it's very natural to approach someone with, in the back of your head, your experience of a loved one maybe passing away. And it could be that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and when the days when chemo was horrific, and this year, but it still sticks in your brain. Now, the treatment I had in 2008 was out of date when my sister got breast cancer. My half-sister got breast cancer in 2013. I started having my treatment in 2022. Since then, I've been swapped onto a drug that wasn't
right
there then.
Always changing.
Since then, when I was swapped over to that drug a year ago, there's another one.
Wow.
Right. So, but people, and chemo is different. And my radiation therapy was completely different from the old days. And each person now has a personalized, it depends on, that's why I get ticked off when people say, oh, have you tried balm of Eye of Newt, or I can do nutrition, blah, 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 because they don't know what meds you're on. There are 47, 48 different breast cancers, all different. Then there's your ethnicity. So now it's to the person. However, when someone approaches you, they have this vision of maybe hell. And sadly, the first thing, and I really appreciate the way you told me about your sister, but often someone will greet you right off the bat who you have no rapport with, you've never met with this gruesome death of agony and hell, and then pat your hand. And I now know how to handle that. I say, and you're telling me this, why? You know, your greeting is this story, why? But you're right. The language, like terminal, it's wonderful clickbait for the newspaper. Nobody in medical calls it terminal. It's, as you said, life-limiting, as is Parkinson's, motor neurone disease, all of those things. Yes, I've got stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, but there's stage 4 and there's stage 4. There can be a few, even if a few cells, hiding in your body, make their way into your bone. You can have 6 cells and it's metastatic. You can also have cancer like mummy and your sister did in your brain, in your liver, in your kidney, whatever. And that is metastatic. It could have started somewhere else. So what I'm saying is, you could be at, as my oncologist calls it, entry level. He says to me, you're entry level. And your cancer count can be down here because a few damn cells, or it was lucky. They caught mine, luckily, out here. Or you could be, sadly, only have a few weeks to live. All of that is metastatic. All of that is stage 4. All of that at some stage is terminal. Life is terminal. None of us getting out of here alive. So life limiting might mean that without the cancer you'll live till 87, but with it you'll hit 80. My oncologist is treating people with metastatic breast cancer who are 20 years out. I've been contacted people with 20 years out because theirs was caught relatively early. So, but the press...
Yeah, that's not clickbait.
It's not clickbait.
Like, that's what they want, right?
Stage 4, you're dying. It's metastatic. It's, she's a poor child at the end of her life. And every time they do that, Davina, it doesn't just affect everybody who's living with cancer, the 3.4 million people living with cancer. It affects their families and their loved ones. But we don't matter. We don't matter because it's better to put these headlines and then all of the guessing games around the King's cancer and Catherine's cancer. Totally get why they don't say exactly what cancer is. Totally bloody get it.
Yeah. I also was really interested in the language specifically around dealing with your cancer and how annoying that is. And my sister, again, had the same thing.
Oh, did she think the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody does. It's battling.
Yes, it's
all right,
so
let's
interesting. Let's do it.
Battling. She's battling cancer. Oh, win the battle. You'll win the battle. I hate that phrase. There are very few people going through treatment who like it because then there's the language, they won the battle or they lost the battle. And it always losing the battle. It makes you feel weak and that you didn't personally do something enough. You are responsible for the cancer. And by the way, there are enough people telling you that. You know, I had a woman who used to tell me, I'm not surprised that you this was before I got, before it came back. I'm not surprised you got cancer back in 2008. We never have desserts when we go out and you always have a dessert because I always skip the start and have a dessert, right? I'm not surprised. I never have sugar. I don't even have I've never had a slice of my children's birthday cake. But you got cancer because of that.
It's funny how people just want to have an opinion about
but they tell you.
Yeah.
They tell you
what to do.
To eat, what to eat. I've had somebody say to me, I love you dearly. You're a really bright woman, which I can't explain the stupidity of you having chemo. Why put yourself through it? And then a loved one of hers got cancer. They were like, went to chemo like a rat up a bloody drain pipe, you know? I'm like, I wish I could say to those people, well, God forbid, when you get cancer, you try that out, loving, because they never do. The other thing, battling, winning, losing the battle. That's one. Giving people unsolicited advice about what food you eat. You don't know what meds I'm on. I feel like saying, wow. And I've had people doing that. I've lost a friend from me snapping back at that. I feel like saying, wow, you're an expert on nutrition from Dr. Google, from the University of Google. You're an expert in nutrition for breast cancer. Which one of them? They go, what? Well, there's 47, 48. Which one of them? And what's the difference in ethnicities? And which chemo will you be doing this nutrition for? Because my nutritionist has my bloods, my ethnicity, my chemo levels, my blood levels, everything. And if they give any advice, it's specifically for me. They never give it to somebody else because we can all have the same cancer and it's different. And then, as I said, greeting someone with cancer with the story of how you know all about it because you saw your loved one go through that. You don't know all about it. And as you say, the best way sometimes is to say, I don't know what to say.
Yes. I mean, I think the other thing that I see sometimes is that people feel so bad and don't know what to say. They just sort of cut contact in a weird kind of way. Have you had that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That hurts, right? My sister was devastated.
Yeah, completely. It really does hurt. And with my husband, he went through it. I'm very aware that he went through it with his beloved wife, the mother of his children.
Will you just tell the story of what happened to Alan?
He nursed and stayed with his first wife. Why do I say stayed with? Because I think it's 70-something% of men leave their wives or have an affair
when they're ill. Wow. Is that a stat?
I'm in that bracket.
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm in that bracket.
Wow.
They either leave their wives or have an affair while their wives are going through cancer.
Right.
As I know. Anyway.
So would you mind me just asking quickly, so one of your husbands left?
Not left, but they, all I'm going to say, I'm not going to give details. I'm going to read the stats to you. 70-something% of them either leave or have an affair.
Okay. Got it.
And then eventually leave.
Right.
Put it that way. But Alan stayed with his wife, nursed her, and had 2 children, 9 and 11. Stayed a single dad until they were at college.
Wow.
Right. They give him Mother's Day and Father's Day cards. And that's the other thing we bonded on. We've both been single parents, you know, but I'm very aware he's gone through that trauma. And I keep, every so often I say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He, you know, tells me he's told me I look beautiful when I probably look like Gollum. My precious. We laugh. I've got a very dark humour in it. I will have a very dark humour in the house.
Is that been since it's come back, you've cultivated a really dark sense of humour?
Yeah. But I have
lost
friends. I've lost friends. And what makes me more enraged is that some of Alan's friends, a few of Alan's friends, when he needed them, because they knew either knew him when he went through it the first time. There were kind of remarks, well, you've been through this before, you'll handle it. But one friend just has disappeared. And it's funny, I'm a tiger for that. I would throttle that guy, but not the woman. They're a couple. But yeah, nothing. Because I batted back help. I can do your diet, blah, 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 blah. And I not even horribly, they disappeared, and it does hurt. But then there are strangers who step into your life.
Yes.
You know, my skating coach because I was coming up for my first skating exam, because that's why I did dancing on ice. I wanted to learn to skate. My half sisters did skating classes, but I was the brainy one, so so I always wanted to skate. So I did dancing on ice, and then I wanted to learn technically how to skate.
Great.
So Rose, my skating coach, works with older people and disabled people. She's brilliant. And when I shattered my hip, she would race from the rink, an hour before between teaching kids, race from the rink, come and walk with me, sit and talk with me, race back.
Oh.
When a couple of occasions when Alan had to go overseas for, I'd say, oh God, poor Alan, we're freaking out. I've got chemo, it can't to me. I'll take you. Race, drive, race back.
Mm.
And then with skating, because I'm officially, I don't think of it, disabled, because I have no feeling from my knees down because of the chemo. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to walk again. Wow. When we skate, I have to learn, because I can't feel my feet. Mm-hmm. Now I am taking help. My oncologist, when I said I want to skate, he went, oh God, don't tell me. I wear padded trousers. I've got a special crash band. It took a lot. When I came back to the rink, my rink, they all cheered and clapped. Oh. But because I was with a group of adult skaters, and we had adult skating class, which was a hoot. Now I'm coming back like a baby, and sometimes I get really frustrated and say I'm shit. I could skate before, and I'm, excuse my French, and then Rose will film me and say, "You go, girl! Oh my God!" And when I manage to do something, suddenly I'll get from the other ice skaters, who I think are just minding their business, yay! Good job! And I'm going to guess I'm pretty much like you in that we find it very hard to ask for help.
Oh my God, Trisha, don't even get me started on that.
For help. I've had to, because when I'm skating, my adult skaters group, they come to my rink, and I've had to ask them, because they're practicing for exams and things like that, can you skate with me? Can you hold my hand? Or I had to ask someone, can you help get my skate guard off? And they come, hold my hand, and they'll skate round with me.
I want to touch on something about you getting help. Because I think it's very hard to start asking. But once you've asked a few times and you get the help that you need and deserve, kind of changes you a bit, right?
No.
It doesn't?
No. I still find it hard.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Look, let me say, cancer the first time round, which was a comparative walk in the park, gave me gifts. It gave me gifts. I can always see the gifts an experience gives you. And I feel for people who've never had anything bad happen in their life. Yeah. They exist. Mm-hmm. They exist.
Because of the gifts that something bad can give you.
Yeah. Or because they're so scared, they become so scared of something bad happening that it's what I call gilded cage. They shorten their world, limit their world, won't do this, won't do that. As the older they get, the smaller their world comes.
Yeah.
And I think with a life-limiting condition, you have to push back against that, But the gifts, I've got more gifts than ever from cancer the second time round. My kids were teens doing GCSEs and A-levels the first time. and didn't get the special, turned back, refused they offer you that extra help.
Yeah.
That I'm immeasurably proud of my kids.
Yeah.
Immeasurably, because they've walked through poo and they've used that poo to plant the most beautiful roses. But they were offered special dispensation. No, they wouldn't take it. And they still came out. And I remember them lying on my hospital room floor doing homework.
Wow.
And they refused any extra help.
Great.
I still got brilliant results. And it was important for them that they weren't victims.
Yeah.
And that was a gift. But the second time around, I had to learn to be far more honest, because they're not teenagers, they're adults.
Yeah.
And if you keep people close to you in the dark, they fear things that probably aren't even there. And I don't know if you felt that with your sister. When somebody's not opening up to you, or you feel you're being shut out, you feel the reason they're doing that is because it's bigger, something even more catastrophic than what's going on.
I've started being able to ask my partner for help. I feel like Alan.
Oh yeah, I can ask Alan for help.
I feel like Alan is your soulmate.
Yeah.
Is that how you describe him?
Yeah.
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 How old were you when you got together with Alan?
A young child at 59.
And were you in love before in your life, or was he like the first, do you think?
I thought I was in love before.
Yeah.
I thought I was. I genuinely thought I was. But intimacy is what I didn't have before. Intimacy, I mean true intimacy. Yes. I don't mean just sex.
A real connection.
Real connection. I didn't know before I met him what true intimacy was, personally, sexually, or anything. The fact that in the early days, of making love, he was cognizant of me needing my precious sleeve, or about how I felt about my scars, or how I felt, all of the things that he'd instinctively learned through loving and nursing his first wife through cancer. I mean, I didn't have cancer when I met him, but he knew everything, intimate things that happen to you when you're on cancer medication, all that sort of thing. Now, he knew all of that. He knew how to approach me physically and mentally without it ever having to be discussed. He asked me questions and talked to me in areas that no partner ever had before. He is this is the first relationship that I've been in, apart, not counting my kids, obviously, for me. He's the first partner I have had that is proud of me. He doesn't even say it. He watches every single thing that I'm in. He will be talking with his friends, and he will mention something that I've discovered in a news programme. He reads all the British politics and news and everything. He never did before. So we have a conversation. He's razor sharp. He's travelled all over the world. He has introduced me to his spirituality, which is Judaism. He's Jewish, but also follows a lot of Buddhism. I've introduced him to Christmas. The first Christmas he had, he was like a kid. He was like a child. Is 16, something like that. He was just like a child. He comes into churches with me. And I'm not holy roller, I'm just very spiritual. But he comes into churches with me, unbidden. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm lighting a candle for Winnie and your mummy." He sat with me. I found a very lovely church when we were here not long ago in Kensington. And I sat there, Davina, and I don't do crying because I was hit if I cried as a child. But I just started crying, and he held me while I prayed. So I will light candles with him, and if he's travelling and it's Hanukkah, I will light the candles. I will say the prayers because he will say my prayers. That is intimacy.
Yes.
He's the first partner I've had who's admitted to any spirituality. First partner I've had who says, "I'm proud of you." And still when we're going out and I come down the stairs dressed up, he'll look up and he'll tell me, "I'm beautiful." I tell him to F off, but it's...
He just sounds great.
He's goofy, and we laugh, and we're inappropriate. My kids would go, "You can't talk like that." And we play, we have fun, and we do mad cat things.
Is it, I mean, obviously being life limited, you are conscious. We all know that there's an end to life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to die. You're going to die.
No, we're not.
But,
no, you're not.
But do you have like something like a bucket list? Or
no.
Do you hate that?
Hate it.
Oh, really? Why?
Hate it. Because why wouldn't anybody have a bucket list? It doesn't have to be life limit.
When my sister didn't manage to do, we thought, would you like to do? She didn't get a chance to do that. I was thinking, I'm doing my bucket list now.
Why?
Live your bucket list.
Yes.
Do everything you want to do. Why are you waiting till you die to be
I
happy?
know, until you get a life sentence. It's bollocks.
Bollocks. You're right. It's absolutely
bollocks.
Are you putting yourself out of your comfort zone more, like experience everything?
But I always did.
Yeah. Okay.
I've signed up for that. Alan doesn't want me to jump out of a plane, and my oncologist just said that is a step too far. So I signed up with my eldest daughter to do that thing where I bought us for Christmas where, it's a control thing, like you jump out of the plane, zero gravity and
yes, okay, yes.
Yeah, so I signed up with her to do that.
So, like, just do the thing. Want to do the thing, do it.
I've always been like that.
Yeah.
But this pushes me further.
In terms of...
That's why I'm doing Big Brother.
Finish with... Well, I was just going to say, in terms of, like, Big Brother, if you were thinking about legacy, obviously you have your whole career as legacy.
I hate that word.
What? Oh, no, I think that's a great word.
Why?
I suppose...
It's like, to me, it's like, I get asked sometimes.
It's like, what imprint have you made on the world? I think that's a good thing.
I've been asked, seriously, by somebody, a journalist or somewhere along the line, what would you like to be remembered for? I'm like, fuck off, I'm not dead. Excuse my French.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think about that, and I'm not dead. Like,
what have you left an imprint?
Well, like, what difference? I want to make a difference.
Oh, yeah, I do.
That's a legacy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. No, I really think it is.
No, I mean...
I think it's like, you revolutionised television in this country. Trisha was like the most amazing... It was like way ahead of its time. You're a woman, you're a black woman, doing something really powerful, strong, smart. Like, that's a legacy. Like that's it is. No, it is. I'm going to pay you a compliment. I'm sorry, you're going to have to take it. You got to just say yes here, Trisha, because I'm speaking.
Hello, is that my therapist?
I'm speaking the truth. And I guess, maybe you've done it, but I wondered, because like also I think you going into the Celebrity Big Brother house at the beginning, you were talking about your daughter saying, "Go in there, you've got a message to leave." Yeah. That's another one.
I hope so.
That's another.
But you see how I see it. I guess I'm saying that how I see it. I'm sublimely proud of the work that people I've helped trained in the media have done, because they've done that with mental health input.
Yeah.
And I hope they've brought some of the things, caring things, the less cutthroat things of this industry. And I'm sublimely proud of how Mind has developed, because I was a patron of Norfolk, Norwich Mind for a long time. I'm sublimely proud of how they've developed and how Mind has developed, and the woman running Mind, as I know from way back. I'm sublimely proud of, if you want to call it legacy,
I guess
my children.
What I would call
what legacy. My children have done in their particular spheres in mental health. There are people who will take the baton that you give them and throw it in the bushes.
Yeah.
There are people who will take the baton, shove it up the backsides of those who need a kickstart, hand it to other people. One of my friends in my group, my little group for going in the Big Brother house, is a kid that stood up in the audience and said, "I want to be in television." And I said, "All right, you be a runner, researcher, producer, Now, in the big game.
Your legacy.
And has become a friend and has bubbies. All the people who used to be on my show, they get together every year with their bubbies and they send me a picture. And I'm so proud of those people, what they've done. But do I see it as me? No.
So I've got to wrap this up now, because I would really like to talk to your daughter with you, if that's all right, in a moment. But I would like to ask you one final question before we invite her in. And that is, how has learning that you are life limited changed you? Has it changed you in any way?
Yes. I tolerate bullshit even less. I don't go out of my way to make friends. If I've got to work too hard to make connect with someone, I'm not rude, but I feel with limited energy, how am I going to best utilize that energy? And if it's crawling up somebody's batty, I ain't doing it. The people I'm intimate with, I hope I'm more intimate with. I made friends with my dear darling friend Sarah, who's been going through cancer with me when nobody knew I was going through it. Listen, I'm going into the Big Brother house. I would never have done that before. It's to me like jumping in that ocean. I know I'm going to panic for a while. I have learned how to self-soothe, as we call it, talk myself down. I don't know how I'll be. I enjoy nature even more. I did before. I did anyway. I forgive myself more.
Wow. That's great.
I was always very hard on myself. I forgive myself more. Wow. Yeah.
Well, very kindly, your daughter Billie said she'd come and take a seat next to you and tell me her experience of what she's gone through with you as your daughter. So I was just wondering if we could get Billie in.
woo, woo. That's my most beautiful girl in the world.
How was that for you watching your mum?
I mean, most of the stories I've heard
Yeah.
many times before. So, yeah, pretty normal. There are a few things that, made me sit up.
No.
Well, when you were saying, talking to your sister about writing a will or funeral arrangements, and I realised suddenly that's something I completely haven't done. So, a few moments were...
Whitney, you haven't done.
With you.
I ain't writing any will.
Exactly.
They've got a form I'm meant to put out. I've said, if ever I, when I had that operation, do you want resuscitating? I said, hell yes.
There's other things you need to consider, though.
Yeah, but I'll just say, throw it all at me. I don't want to leave the party if I can dance another few rounds.
I know, but that's what I think makes those conversations particularly difficult.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a time and a place.
I think what's difficult when you really love someone, so obviously you two really love each other. I'm sure Alan, really loves you. My experience with Michael, and obviously this will be different for you guys because as we know, everybody's different.
Yeah.
But my experience with Michael going through my brain tumour was the hardest thing we've ever been through because we go through everything together.
Yeah.
He was with me when my dad died. He's just all the difficult things that we've gone through together in parallel. But this, we were like that. I was going through my thing over here, and it was so hard to explain what it was, and he was going through his pain over here.
Yeah.
And it's only kind of after 4 months that we've been able to come back and have honest talks about it, because it's hard to understand each other's needs. And I think he wasn't going through this difficult thing over here, but his was equally difficult, but in a different way.
Yeah.
But you're slightly wrapped up in, well, my thing's difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, but you can both just say, don't want to talk about it. This idea of wanting to know what your mother's wishes would be at the end is something that you would like to know about, but it's very hard to talk to her about. How are you guys going to resolve that? I've already written, I've got a death book. You can buy a thing on the internet called a death book.
I've written a will. I've written all my plans for my funeral. Yeah. I'm surprised that you haven't.
No. I think it's easier if you don't have a diagnosis. I think I could have done it before. In fact, I did. I actually did. I have got a will from before. I've got to change it. But I have got a will from before. But obviously, since I met Alan, all that something I haven't updated it. So it was easier to write when I didn't have the diagnosis than now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, the other problem with a will, if you don't update it, then the old one still stands.
Yeah, I know.
So when I went for an operation and I did letters of wishes for my kids and things like that, so that they would know. But I do know what you mean. It's almost like admitting.
Yeah.
Something
or bringing it upon you.
Yes.
I know that doesn't make sense.
That you're manifesting it in some way.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
I'll write the will. Oop.
Yeah. How hard is it emotionally dealing? How hard was it for you emotionally dealing with it when it came back?
Incredibly hard. I had to go back to therapy, back to my recovery group. It was really hard. Not as hard as the first time. I think going through it as an 18-year-old, nothing can really prepare you for that. So this time it's not been so difficult, but then obviously when these sort of big words are thrown into the mix, like incurable or as we were hearing initially, terminal, of course you freak out. Of course you think the worst. And living in a different country from mum as well, it's very stressful. She has Alan, who is amazing, but at the time when this happened, I'd only met him a few times. I had no idea who he was, and suddenly I had to trust this, you know, pretty much stranger to look after mum, and that was terrifying. So yeah, lots of things were difficult, but I don't think anything could be more difficult than being an 18-year-old and having to do
that
it.
was.
Can I ask you about that? Because there will be people watching who will get a cancer diagnosis. We know 1 in 2 of us are going to get cancer.
Yeah.
And they will have to tell their children, how can you best support a child going through that kind of diagnosis? What did you
You
need?
didn't have any support.
I didn't have any support. I don't even think anyone even asked me if I was okay.
Strange teachers
No,
were like,
no, people made assumptions.
Yeah.
People would tell you how you should be feeling.
Yes, but this is what your mum was talking about.
Yeah. No one actually asks you, you know, what would you like? What do you need? How would you like this to be spoken about? That's never a conversation that's had. And I think at 18, when this happened, I felt completely out of control. My stepfather also made it very, very clear that we couldn't bring any other issues into the home. Okay, I might have crippling depression and anxiety, but to mention that was so selfish that I was not allowed to. And what that meant is at that time, I was already sort of dabbling with drink and smoking a bit of weed, but I then started bunking off lessons, not going to school, just to get high, just to find some way to escape what was happening. My boyfriend at the time and his family were great. My friends were great, but I dreaded going home. I dreaded having to deal with it. And yeah,
I feel so, you know, the thing is, you don't know until afterwards.
Yeah.
I didn't find out, and I still guess I'm finding out snippets of what was happening at home. And that...
You mean about
what
your
was
stepfather, your husband saying, don't bring any other stuff home?
Well,
right.
and other stuff. And I feel... I was thinking the other day, you know, I feel often... If I feel guilty about something, I sort of smirk to myself. I feel guilty about the choices I made in partners. I was just kind of joking with myself, you know, but yeah, with a serious side.
I'm not joking.
No. But you know, when you're sarcastic with yourself, you know, you silly cow, you know. Yeah, you only find out later what was going on because you're just so consumed with radiation and chemo and what's happening next.
But I think in that situation, you know, he was trying his best, but obviously he had no experience of this situation. And he went into it, and I think I was at an awkward age. My sibling was still a child, and I was 18. You know, I had a car.
And everybody thinks, you're an adult now.
Well, yeah, I had to share the
You can deal with it.
responsibility. I had to do the shopping. I had to, you know, and I couldn't. I wasn't equipped to deal with that.
And it came so suddenly. It was like,
Yeah.
one day you're, next day, whoop.
Yeah, but I just found more and more needing to escape.
You came to the hospital though.
And that was horrendous every time.
Yeah. Especially then when and the press intrusion.
Were you aware of that? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they were
crumbs.
climbing over the gates trying to get into our home.
So you didn't feel safe?
No.
And then even when you had to do the security to come to the room.
Yeah, the whole thing was so stressful. I'm not surprised that I sort of drank and smoked my way through it, to be honest.
Do you, I heard your mum say earlier that one of the benefits, not benefits, but one of the good things that's come out of the second time is that she forgives herself. Can you find compassion for yourself, that girl back then?
Whew. Yeah, 100%. I've made peace with that. But I do think, and I think the reason why I agreed to do this and speak about it is, yeah, I think there needs to be a bit more awareness about how to speak to your children and other family members about it. And they're still your children, whether they're 6 or 16 or 26 or whatever.
Yes,
you know, they're still
exactly.
children and you're still their parent. And it's always going to be difficult. And I just think making space for really honest conversation where everybody's encouraged to share how they feel is great, because otherwise no one's going to share. No one's going to say, oh, I was crippled with anxiety today when mum's got breast cancer. Like, that just seems ridiculous. But I think
normal things happening. No, that's the thing. Cancer becomes, but they're normal things other things are going on, and this message of suffer in silence because cancer is the trump card. And also, I think the lack of support outside the family. In an ideal world, there would be, as there are with the children of alcoholics, say, there would be a group or something.
Where did you go? Because you said I've got a support group. What is that?
Oh, so I went into drug and alcohol recovery in 2016. So that's never going to leave
you
me.
Go back to meetings?
Yeah, when I need to.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And is there a support group for children of people with cancer or
not that I'm aware of?
If we're not aware of it, I'm not saying there's not. There might be local ones and what have you, but I think it should be just part of the scenery. X is diagnosed with cancer. If you look at the family, you know, I'm lucky enough, if I'd gone through it in where I'm at in Sanford, we get massage, we get nutritionists, we get gym membership, the list is never ending. But Alan is included in that. He can have massage. He can go to the therapy. If
I lived in the
same country. The same country, if she was a child under 18, she would have access. So they look at the person as a whole, the family. Whereas I'm not aware. Maybe Maggie's Centre.
Maggie's brilliant,
Centre.
I've got to say, yeah.
And I helped do one of the launches with Sarah Brown back in 2008.
We'll put a link for Maggie's in this.
Absolutely, shout out for Maggie's. But it should be normal whenever anyone is diagnosed with a life-limiting illness that the whole family is considered.
Yes.
And maybe the specialists sit down and explain to the whole family in an age-appropriate way, and that there's support groups. Because if you don't, let's talk about dollars and dimes, it's going to cost you more.
In
because
the end,
the diagnosed person can easily slip into depression and what have you. Meanwhile, the kids and everybody else are just going... They've all got their issues. They don't know how to handle it. Nobody talks to them about you'll go through this or that. Nobody says to the other parent, your kid will still, the problems they may have had beforehand will disappear magically,
And I think just one last note from you. I just would really like, if somebody is going to try and talk to the child of someone who's going through a life-limiting illness, what should they do? What pointers can you give them?
It's a great question. I think the first thing is to listen, give them a safe space and just listen. Don't make any assumptions. Don't put any words in them. Everyone's going to have a completely different experience. And I think what I have always felt is really lacking is just the space, just to dump and just get everything out. So I think that's the most important thing. And I think secondly, just to know that, you are probably going to be depressed and you are probably going to be really anxious. In fact, it would be really weird if you weren't. And I just think someone needs to tell you that actually what you're feeling is big
normal.
Feelings. You'd be weird if you weren't feeling them. And I just think there was no one to give that reassurance. And, you're made to feel like you're too much or you're taking or you're selfish. But actually, no, I think kids just need space to say what's on their mind and just a bit of validation that what you're feeling is completely okay.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I've got to wrap it up, but I just want to say that was really, really impactful.
Isn't she good?
And super
brilliant.
No, super helpful, I think, also for people who just don't know how to communicate with people with a life-limiting illness or the child of somebody with a life-limiting illness. And it is that thing of like, I just don't know how to approach it, so I'm not going to approach it at all. And that's so brilliantly helpful that you've done this. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
It was such a joy to meet you as well. Well done, you. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah, well done, Trisha. That was absolutely magic. I've obviously had just the utmost respect for Trisha all my career. She was an absolute trailblazer for me. But to managed to talk to her to unpick a little bit what it's like to find out that you're living with a life-limiting illness, and you have really good kind of messages to send out to people about how to deal with talking to somebody when they have a life-limiting illness. And I think that would be very, very helpful to a lot of people. So anyway, it was really nice to talk to Billie as well. That was absolutely incredible. And to see them together, and to just see that talking is important. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's painful, sometimes you feel like it's the wrong thing to do, but actually unpicking something and giving someone the space, a safe space to open up and be honest, is invaluable.